Very good morning to all of you. We are at the day 5 of faculty development program on innovation in pharmacy education and application of AI, enhancing teaching learning practices in collaboration with Society of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, that is SPER. So I welcome all the participants and faculty members present at the ISFCP platform. I also would like to welcome today's speaker, Mr. Vijay Kumar Jaishalanji. So before further proceeding, I would like to introduce today's speaker. Mr. J is co-founder of Vardeur RCM, where he leads technology, product engineering, and data science. Vardeur RCM is an innovative company focused on AI-powered solution for healthcare revenue cycle management. Vardeur RCM is recently acquired by New Mountain Capital, one of the world's top private equity firms. A seasoned strategic health teach leader, Jay brings deep expertise in health sciences, product engineering technology, adoption AI strategy, and driving digital and cloud transformation. He has a proven track record in devising technology strategies, overseeing new product introduction, and leading high impact innovation in the health science space. Before co-founding Vardeur RCM, Jay served as Senior Director at Oracle Health and Life Sciences. Jay was responsible for Oracle Health and Life Sciences suite of products, strategy, and adoption across the Asia Pacific region. He led efforts to establish Oracle as a prominent player in e-clinical safety and health information exchange clinical analytics within Asia Pacific region. Throughout his career, Mr. J has been in structural in building and scaling health sciences products, helping them achieve significant global market share. His leadership also includes successfully delivering large-scale national economic health record implementations in Australia and Singapore. As active voice in the digital health domain, Mr. J has published several papers on clinical research and digital health technologies. He was a member of the drafting committees for digital health standards under the National Accreditation Board for Hospital and Healthcare Providers and the Bureau of Indian Standard Health Informatics section. He holds a Master of Computer Application, a postgraduate program in management from UCLA Anderson School of Management, and Master of Public Health from IIHMR University. Mr. J is currently pursuing a PhD in AI and digital health. Sir, we welcome you at the platform of ISFCP. Welcome you,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Thank you so much, sir. I think really delighted to be here today. Um, so I think this is a great forum to really talk about recent advancements in AI, how it's really impacting the overall pharmaceutical industry. Although the focus is on the innovation in pharmacy education, but I think I thought this is a great forum to really talk about some of the breakthrough innovations in the overall health sciences industry. So I really structured this presentation in two parts. I think first part really talk about some of the key trends that's really impacting. Then I'll really go in specifics in terms of pharmacovigilance, how AI is really kind of changing the landscape. So as you have seen the introduction, I actually co-founded a healthcare AI company about a year ago that really focused on automating, for example, like medical coding. Given a patient chart, how do we automatically identify the ICD codes, CPD codes, modifiers, CUT-CC codes, all of them. I mean, in US, coding is really important from a billing and reimbursement standpoint. So how we really adopted AI to automatically identify these codes given a chart. I think that kind of transformation really led to large scale adoption and recent acquisition by New Mountain Capital. So I just start with a quick introduction in terms of where are we right now, right? So the evolution of AI is clearly an inflection point in the digitization of life sciences and healthcare industry. And going forward, you will see significant change the way how we run, build molecules, and how do we really deliver services to the patients. So this is clearly evident when we look at how therapies, treatments are increasingly delivered. I think they're really becoming more preventive, more customized, more curative. We also see that treatments are also becoming like more digitized. I think you probably at least one or two digital components are now really embedded in the way how we deliver the treatments. For example, like medication adherence, lifestyle changes. All of these digital therapeutic is now really evolving as a major breakthrough innovation. Similarly, it's also becoming more precise, right? So, given the evolution of AI and its adoption, it really brings unprecedented opportunity to really reconsider business models and also address the complex environment through a very leaner, more flexible, creative, cost-effective process. This is something that's really important for us to take a note of it. But if you really look at the heart of all of these, to really achieve all these, the important thing is data, right? So data is really a critical enabler of this transformation. So I think now we all know, I think you all teaching pharmacy, I think you all understand different types of data, right? So now we have explosion of data in terms of both structured as well as unstructured data. Now also, for example, now we have images, voice type data, data that has its own semantic context. I think that's really important, right? Data that has different frequencies, data streams, very high throughput frequencies. We also see, how many times data can also becoming very periodic, in a sense that it's becoming very sophisticated. For example, a scientific paper in a natural language form. I mean, that is again one types of data that you really see. So the challenge that you see here is how do we bring all these together, unify the data, automate the workflows, processes to really facilitate better collaboration within the organization, which crucially to really identify the new opportunities, right? New discoveries. How do we really scale this, in terms of opportunities to impact the health outcomes? I think that's really very important. Now, what I really want to show is actually like thought. Like I'll just talk about some of the innovation use cases. I think this evolution of the life cycle that you see here, I think this is something that we all understand how the overall pharmaceutical landscape in the overall health sciences value chain. I just stated a few examples of breakthrough innovations across drug discovery life cycle that really shaping the pharmaceutical industry today. From a scientific research to a preclinical clinical development, and then supporting the post-launch with the patient and the healthcare patient engagement, and more broadly, what I call as health management. What I thought it will be interesting to the audience is to really talk through some of these with examples. You will really understand ultimately all these innovations are impacting how we can improve the return of investment from a research point of view. How do we identify better drug candidates, faster discoveries, and how do we really kind of reduce the time to market? I think that's again one of the challenges that you'll really see in terms of overall drug development life cycle. Now, I'll just start with the first use case. I think this is again example where Ellison Institute partnered with University of Southern California to really support the cancer research. So I think the recent breakthrough has been how do we train predictive algorithms for breast cancer diagnostics. I think most of you will be aware, to get a value from a deep learning in the field like this, it really requires vast amount of well annotated data sets. I think that's really important, right? So we need millions of annotated images to learn statistically significant relationships, right? So an ideal data set is nearly impossible to gather in a cancer pathology landscape. So they have got around this challenge by introducing a two-step process of training the algorithm to identify uniquely the patterns in a cancerous tissue before teaching it to the correct diagnosis. So the first step clearly introduces the concept of tissue fingerprinting, or distinguishing the architectural patterns in a tumor tissue that AI algorithm can really use to distinguish between samples, because no two patients' tumors are identical, right? I mean, that's a fundamental premise on which this tissue fingerprinting works. So these fingerprints are real result of the biological variations. For example, like the presence of signaling molecules and receptors that influence 3D organization of the tumor, right? So the study shows that AI spotted these fine structural differentiations on pathology slides with a greater accuracy and reliability than a human eye is able to recognize these variations without a human guidance. So this allowed the institute to really provide accurate predictions of clinical subtypes of breast cancer. I think this is something that I just thought I will really call out from a research standpoint, how we really apply AI to really kind of augment the human expertise that's out there in the research domain. My second example, I just take one example from a preclinical perspective, right? This is a case study to address a 90% failure rate that pharma companies face when we develop new medications. I think this is very evident since you are all pharmacy teachers and the students who are really understand. So typically, I think we all know drug compounds are screened in the lab using human cells and then tested in animals. So the challenge being that these methods don't always replicate how the drugs affect human organs in real life. I think that's fundamentally the challenge that we really see. In many cases, drugs can also have unexpected toxic effects in tissues, which are not really directly targeted on the drug themselves, right? So the Wake Forest, what they've done is they actually created real organoid models of human body on chips. So these are micro-sized 3D organs. They're actually growing these on a plastic substrate, right? So they are really growing real cells of lungs, hearts, kidneys, and the liver, right? So testing the candidates active ingredients to measure the toxicology, yearly insight into understanding the safety and efficacy of the candidate drugs, it doesn't really require an animal. I think that's a fundamental shift that you really see this novel approach, how they really use. So they're able to identify if a drug doesn't have appropriate topological profile as they do these tests. They are generating huge amount of data, assay data, as well as like scientific analysis data, how and why certain compounds metabolize differently in certain parts of the body. So this is again another really breakthrough innovation, especially if you really look at from a preclinical context. So I just thought I will share this with you. And next one, I just want to call out another example, especially on cardiac arrhythmia. I think we all know cardiac arrhythmia is a malfunction of heart's electrical system, which can make the vital organ beat too fast, too slow, or even irregularly, right? So there's no single cause of arrhythmia. After decades of study of the illness, the researchers are still learning how to treat complex cases, right? But help could come from promising technique, what we call is 3D modeling of hearts. So they actually created 3D models of hearts and then building simulations called virtual hearts to aid in the research and treatment, and really determine the effective location of the pacemakers electrodes. So this company called ELEM, I think you all can see this in YouTube. You can really understand, if you really want to kind of go and see what this use case is all about. So they actually pioneered a new approach, which allows clinicians and scientists to run virtual experiments to understand how organs work and react to drug candidates. So this solution can typically deliver cost savings of almost 50% and the process improvement time of almost 15% compared to traditional animal testing and various processes that we really employ. So I think within the preclinical stage, right, this can really deliver cost savings of almost 50%. Really, that's quite significant in terms of really what we see. So these are some of the examples in terms of preclinical development standpoint. Now, just to move on to clinical development, I think this is a quote from Gartner, I think the cost of trials is increasing rapidly, right? So how do we really address these challenges? How do we really make things much more faster, time to market, really from a new discovery standpoint? I think that's been a challenge that exists in the industry for quite some time now. I think some of you probably heard this digital clinical trials. This actually got very prominent during COVID-19, where the sites, patients are not able to go to the sites. Then how do we really reach subjects wherever they are? I think that's where digital clinical trials, or what we call decentralized trials, really kind of become very prominent. It actually helps to bring like life-saving therapies to patients so much more faster and cheaper. So there are many great companies that emerged to engage and collect data directly from patients. I think this is more of direct to patient home kind of a concept. I think this is really kind of changing the way how trials are conducted. So what happens is the patient no need to go to the site. Patients will be given an app where everything will be like his plan, when what data has to be collected. In case if there are particular data has to be collected, even the qualified clinical associates can actually go to the patient's home, collect. If not, they can ask the patient to only come for that particular time to really kind of take the test or anything. So really, it really brings in three key benefits. One is it increases the trial time and cost due to segmentation technologies, broadening the patient access and diversity. I think now there is no limit in terms of where the patient is. It's only not tied to the sites. The clinical research organizations and the sponsors can now reach out broader set of patients, irrespective of the geographical limitation. It also simplify the operational model to really scale like multi-modality data collection and integration. I think now it makes us more real-time, not just like one-time data that's collected when the patient visits sites, but now through the wearables and various other technologies, now we can get a real-time view of data that is coming in from directly from patients, and then you can make informed decisions. So I think I think there's a survey that you will see the screen that is done by Informa. So they actually found out that the impact of newly adopted clinical trial methods post-pandemic. I think you can really see there are different approaches. For example, like remote monitoring, video visits. Telehealth has got a lot of prominent attention post-COVID scenario. E-consent is now evolving. There's no need to really patient to come to the site to give you the consent. Pretty much like you can do everything through video and e-consent application. So we really see that now variety of technologies evolve over time, which can really help us to streamline and really make sure this digital clinical trial is really a reality, right? Just to move on. So another big challenge in the industry today is patient recruitment, right? I think you really see that almost 85% of clinical trials fail to recruit even a adequate sample size. I think that's really like significant challenges, right? 11% of the clinical trials don't even enroll single patient. So how do we really address that? I think this is where technology is really promising in terms of how we can really change this, right? So this is what we call as digital patient recruitment. Typically, patients are recruited through social media and more contextual intelligence to identify and target specific patient cohorts. I think that's one way they bring the patients into the platform. Secondly, they can also bring in from third-party EHR systems. There are also patient registries, genomic data repositories. So what it does is the solution brings all these together in a single place where patient enrolled into a single engagement platform, which serves like a waiting room for prospective candidates for eligible trials. And the clinical trial waiting room is a way to bring together individuals with similar conditions or therapeutic needs from a diverse demographic backgrounds, right? So then you can really apply the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria depending upon the protocol, and then see how many patients potentially can be enrolled. I think now you also see that a lot of trial matching software is available in the market. Again, that can talk to multiple repositories of data, and you can kind of do the pre-screening into a specific trial, triage them, and then into the recruitment sites. I think this is something that really evolving. I just thought, for you, all of you, to really understand how this is really helping to enroll patients more fast, quickly, and more effectively as well. So I just thought I'll give you one good case study about subject recruitment and how do we kind of engage, in terms of speed at scale. So I think this during the COVID-19, the US government wanted to recruit 1 million people into the vaccine trial as part of this, what they call as Operation Warp Speed. This is a collaboration between NIH, CDC, and US FDA to build a patient recruitment pre-screening platform, right? So actually this platform, what they built, supported almost 600,000 patients recruited in the period of 6 weeks. I think that's the largest, fastest clinical trial recruitment drive in the history, right? So we all know that like less than 5% of people really know there are relevant clinical trials for their conditions. I think that's a challenge. And every 100 people who are aware and express interest, only 7% really makes it into a randomized clinical trial. So I think this model can really kind of improve almost 40% of speed, like in terms of reducing the cost and getting into a third of all phase 3 delays. It really addresses the enrollment issues that we really see during trial recruitment standpoint. Now, so far, I think we talked about like preclinical, clinical development. I think now switching to the post-launch, I think this is where you all play a very important role as a pharmacy students. I think I will also give a specific emphasis on pharmacovigilance and how technology is kind of changing the landscape. So I think this is an app called VSafe. It's a vaccine health checker that was created for the US Center for Disease Control, CDC. So using VSafe on a mobile device, anyone in the US can report how they're feeling after receiving the COVID-19 vaccination on a daily basis or over an extended period. So this system actually had like 150 million anonymous records, right, where healthcare professionals can understand how different people responded to different vaccines. They're also able to understand what are the common adverse events, and they're able to make recommendations based on how people responded in the VSafe. And in fact, US FDA really used these data sources for faster approval of vaccines. I think this is one of the largest real-world patient data gathering platform in a single therapeutic area. I think the data that is captured in the VSafe was very instrumental to support many key aspects. One is the safety and efficacy of the mRNA vaccine for pregnant women and vulnerable populations. I think the pregnant women were not part of the original clinical trials for the vaccine trials, right? And hence there was no data. But then there are many pregnant women who took the vaccine, so they're able to really see, whether they have any adverse reactions or not, and also it's able to help to get the formal approval of Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Again, they use this VCF data, and also approval of booster doses. And there are a lot of longitudinal studies also been done using this data that we really see. I think this is the first part of what I really want to present. But I think now I just want to kind of shift to pharmacovigilance. That's an area that's very close to my heart. I think I spent almost about 10 years in Oracle, really specialized in pharmacovigilance and how technology can really change the way how we monitor safety events, right? So I think artificial intelligence is again becoming a game changer for safety. I think that's what I really want to kind of call out. It actually gives a very crucial component to comply with regulatory frameworks. Again, as you know, safety regulations varies across different countries. There has been periodic updates. So how fast we can comply with different countries, that's ultimately a major challenge that we really see. I think that look at safety, there are two broader areas. One is case management, other one is signal management. I think, one of the major challenges that we see is volume of incoming adverse events, right? It's almost 30 to 50%, right? It's increasing. So to really see, break this into a life cycle, like if you look at the safety case management, how do I take this incoming data? So that's the intake process, right? How do I triage it? And then how do I process? How do I do a duplicate check? How do I do coding, like meta coding? And then how do I do the assessment, like seriousness, severity, causality, significant, all of those, right? I think I will talk a little in the further slides how this is kind of changing by applying AI there. And similarly, signal management, right? Now, the source of data for signal is now across different data sources, right? Whether it's scientific literature or like real world data from EHR systems, product labeling, social media. So how do I aggregate these different combinations and then kind of do real world evidence and pharmacogenetics analysis from a signal validation perspective, right? So these are really fundamentally how different aspects of case management and signal detection is kind of changing by applying AI. Just to give a context, why this is really important, why as a pharmacy students or teachers, you should really understand, right? So as I mentioned earlier, the case volume is substantially increasing. Post-COVID, now we see almost 30 to 50% year on year, right? So that's a significant workload for the sponsors with the flood of data, right? So what AI could reduce is, it reduces the processing time by almost 50%, right? It really helps you to automate the case management and the overall, reduces the pressure of case loads, allowing the safety team to really focus on high value, rather low value cases, from a case evaluation and rather than the data entry. I think that's a fundamental important thing we all should really understand. Now, if you look at, how do we really optimize pharmacovigilance, right? There are really a four-step process. At least if you look at like 10, 15 years ago, it's more of process automation, right? This is what we were really started with. We kind of automate what are the repetitive tasks by applying specific rules. For example, like email alerts or filling a form. Those are very basic process automation, right? This is what we did. It really doesn't have any intelligence or flexibility, just more of like, for example, if a new case is coming, you will get an email alert. Those level of automation is where we started with. And then we slowly moved on to robotic process automation, what we call as RPA. It's kind of mimic what a human action. For example, I want to copy this document or enter data. Instead of human is kind of doing it, the RPA agents can actually kind of do it. This is a very good technique for intake of data or a duplicate checks or a triage. I think that's what it has really been used. Then we slowly moved on to cognitive automation. We really added a little bit of AI, for example, like natural language processing. We use like OCR techniques, optical character recognition, to scan the incoming adverse event reports. And then how do we extract the data from the documents to understand the context, right? I think this is the kind of third step that kind of we really kind of started working on. But I think now we are in the stage 4, which is how do we really apply machine learning and Gen AI to really kind of expedite and uncover like a lot of the real reasons why the particular adverse events really happening. So this is by applying AI and machine learning and Gen AI, we can now predict seriousness, auto coding for meta. It really supports signal detection. It gives you a lot of flexibility and also faster and smarter decisions by really applying ML. So I will really talk about the subsequent slides how we really applied some of these techniques and how do we really transform the pharmacovigilance landscape as we really kind of move forward. This is again a survey which is done by Informa and Pharma Intelligence, where you see like almost 62% of the respondents, primarily the sponsors who are actually said they are in somewhere in the process of implementing AI in pharmacovigilance, especially on case processing. You can really see that by different segments, like there's quality check or follow-ups or expedited reporting. You will find like already there are many of them kind of applying AI there. So it also gives you significant operational efficiency. As you can see that by just applying rule-based automation, we get like 30 to 50%, right? Non-serious touchless case processing, almost like 60%. By really applying AI, you can get almost from 70 to 90% efficiency. I think that's really significant in the overall pharmacovigilance process landscape in terms of efficiency, right? So just to understand how this really works, I think we know, I think probably all of you understand, right? Like adverse event reports comes in different forms. It could be coming in email. It could come from a very structured adverse event reporting forms, what we call as AERS. It can be coming in from a simple node from hospitals, all of the different sources that we really see. It can even come in social media. For example, somebody is reporting saying that I have this particular adverse reaction after taking a particular drug. How do we really mine all of these, right? Many countries have adopted different standards for adverse event reporting. For example, ICH E2BR3, that's a global standard. Many countries have kind of adopted ICH E2BR3. However, if you look at source documents, they don't really always comply with E2BR3. They will come in different formats, structured, unstructured. So this is where the sponsors really kind of do a lot of manual data entry. I also know that a lot of pharmacy students choose to enter into a pharmacovigilance as a practice eventually, starting as a PV associates, which kind of, they kind of do a lot of manual data entry for hours to kind of mimic what they collected from adverse event reporting system. So that's a significant cost to the organization, right? Why would a pharmacy student has to kind of simply wasting time on data entry? Rather, his time should be spent on really understanding the real reasons and how do we really prevent those adverse events and really report to the regulators, right? I think so. If we see that right from a free text narratives, again it takes a lot of time, right? How do we manually sift through every sentence to find the relevant information in the document, that is incoming document, and then enter it into the correct field in the safety system. I think, yeah, as you all familiar, like Oracle Argus, that's one of the global standard for safety. In India, prominently, most of the pharma companies use Oracle Argus, where people enter those cases, right? So this now, AI is kind of changing this. Like, they no longer need to enter safety cases manually. What it does is the incoming data, whether it's a social media post, or is it some kind of forms where they fill in, or it can be a literature article, or it could be like adverse event reporting form. All of these will be ingested into this AI system, which then extracts text from a clinical document. And then it clusters the document, it classifies the documents by categories. Is it form, or is it social media post, is it literature article? That's what we call as classification or clustering the documents, right? And then it extracts the content from the document. It uses several techniques, like OCR could be one of them, or a PDF to text converters are available now, where it extracts a specific data sets. And then it basically, extracted text has to be meaningful sentence, right? This is where they're applying natural language prediction, where they cannot do adverse event entity prediction. Is it a symptom, or is it adverse event what is reported based upon the extracted data, right? And it also gives a confidence score, say that, whether what is AI's ability to confirm whether it's adverse event or is it a symptom, right? Is it 90% confident, or like 60%, where probably there is some challenge in the incoming source data itself, so that AI is not able to predict very accurately, right? And then AI is also used not just extracting data, but also validation part. Like, how do I validate, do the validity assessment, checking whether all the mandatory fields are available based on the data that is collected, right? And then how do you apply post-processing rules, all of them. And then eventually, like, it converts the data into a E2BR3. So you really see that how AI is kind of transforming, taking the data, extract the relevant content, making meaningful sense of the data, do the validation, and then kind of convert into E2BR3, which is typically a standard where most safety systems will understand, whether it's Argus or any other safety database that you will find. And you can also, even for example, to report to regulators, they all has to be E2BR3, right? So how this really works? One is image processing. I think this is where we use OCR. For example, I want to extract ethnicity of a patient or a gender, right? So whatever is marked, I only need to extract that particular region of interest using OCR technique, right? This is how we kind of extract the ethnicity, gender from adverse event reporting forms. That's, we kind of use these image processing techniques, vision techniques from AI standpoint to really kind of extract. Secondly, I think I'm not sure how much you are familiar with natural language processing. It's a branch of AI that really enables computers to understand and interpret and generate human language, right? So basically, this is used, for example, like text classification, right? For example, is it a spam text, right? How do we really understand? So you can use NLP to kind of do. And the other concept in NLP is what called as named entity recognition, what we call as NER. It basically extracts, is it a symptom, is it a medication, is it adverse events? Basically, NER techniques will be useful to classify the data into different categories. And then you can do sentiment analysis. Even NLP is used for language translation. I think you will find this more and more as we see. How can I convert language incoming data using natural language expression? So as you see this example, there is a plus yes, plus D, plus yes. Basically, this is to locate the age, mentions like 35 years old from unstructured data. So here the plus yes matches the space between before and after digits, right? Plus D matches one or more digits. The phrase yes of old anchors the context related. So this is how it is useful is, for example, I want to extract physician, which is the occupation of the particular reporter. I want to extract only that content, right? This is something, this is where NLP is very effective to really kind of extract the structural fields from ICSR processing standpoint, right? I think so far you saw like how AI has been used, safety case processing. But I think the signal detection is again another important domain. So I'm not sure whether the students go through this part of the curriculum, but this is a very important area. Safety signal detection is like, there are several challenges. One is how do we reduce false positives to minimize the workload for signal evaluators? Typically, signal evaluation is done by regulators, right? Regulators like MHRA, FDA, even Indian regulator for that matter, they do a lot of the signal analysis. And then second challenge is to reduce false negatives, right? How do we reduce the exposure of patterns of adverse reactions, making sense of signal scores coming from multiple data sets? And how do we really provide better safety information even before the clinical trials begin, especially to expedite the product development standpoint? So there are three new signal detection methods that is now evolved. One is what we call as neural signal detection. Second one is multimodal signal detection. The third one is predictive signal detection. I think I just kind of talk about only predictive signal detection. You can probably refer to other two methods which are now gaining a lot of attention as well, right? So given the scarcity of time, like let me explain, I mean, the predictive signal detection, what if we are able to possibly predict the safety profile of a particular drug candidate with a high degree of confidence, right? Even before the trial begins, right? So this will reduce uncertainty about the choice of starting a compound, in turn reducing the risk of harming subjects or patients, right? With investing heavily in unsafe products, right? So the predictive AI machine learning promises to make this possible. There are two classes of approach to perform signal detection. One is time observational predictive model, what they actually use, in the sense that they try to predict ADRs, adverse drug reactions, based on the biochemical information even before they're observed or even marketed. I think this is where predictive signal detection really useful. This again, it's a very state-of-the-art, approaches to aim the model of network of interactions between different biochemical properties of drugs. For example, like untimely lead to the adverse drug reactions, all of that. So I think this is something that you probably can read more to really get a context of how people are applying these types of novel approaches when it comes to really. I just thought I'll just talk about this paper that really published. It's published in Lancet, eBiomedical Journal. Basically, there are many organizations collaborated together, like Novartis, Harvard Medical School, even my previous employer, Oracle, was part of this. So the researchers looked at the in vitro data on the pharmacology of common targets for more than 2,100 drugs in the market. They were really searching for proteins associated with a particular treatments, right? Then they reference the safety issues into FAIRS database, FDA's adverse event reporting database, they call as FAIRS, involving drugs specifically for this particular study. Finally, they created a machine learning model that were designed to predict the future adverse events directly from an in vitro database such as PubMed abstracts. So I think now the research is able to identify almost 221 instances of such links The models also suggested that number of previously unknown, unexpected safety issues associated with one specific protein that warranted further investigation. So I think this is significant as you see like how people are really applying machine learning models to, from a signal detection standpoint. I'll just now come to the last slide. I think I just want to, conclude with this particular slide. I think you all know like precision medicine is evolving. I think it's really focused on delivering personalized treatment. For example, like a right therapy to a right patient at the right time. I think that's the fundamental concept of precision medicine. But I think now what's evolving is a precision pharmacovigilance. Really, identify the risk proactively. The goal is to detect wrong therapy to a wrong patient at the wrong time scenarios. It really uses combination of real-world data, again, real-world data coming in from EHR systems or real-world data like social media and so many other sources, how we use AI for the patient stratification, right? It clearly enhances safety by targeting high-risk subgroups. I think this is where precision pharmacovigilance is kind of evolving as a major topic as we kind of move forward. So with that, I will conclude. Any questions? I mean, any feedback? Happy to talk to all of you.
Thank you, sir. One question from my side. When we copying this data, like you are talking about the pharmacovigilance data, so what is the way to identify it is false or it is true data? What is the way? How can we filter this data?
Right. So this is what the system that I talked about. This implementation is done by many companies. Basically, if you look at my previous company that I worked with, they actually had this safety one intake. That's a solution. What it does is you can ingest the data. It will basically bring all this data in a single screen. It will basically automatically tell you, is it adverse event or a symptom or is it a medication? It will spot and tell you. The AI algorithm will tell you, classify and kind of show you all of this in a screen. And then the adverse event evaluators can actually kind of confirm whether, okay, this is adverse event or not. So now they don't have to go through hundreds of pages, volume of literatures. It will directly spot you, help you to identify the instances where it's identified. It will tell you this confidence. Like I can tell you, the model will tell you 95% confident that this is an adverse event. This is not a symptom. So that level of accuracy now we are able to really get in and predict the right adverse events given and the source of treatment. Especially because if you look at the volume of data that's coming, that's huge, right? You can't really go through every single document manually and then kind of go and identify the adverse event. That's really like a lot of time and effort. Now they don't have to really do that. It's all done by the algorithm, and then you review it and confirm it and kind of process automatically without very limited manual intervention.
Dr. Samser is there. I think sir wants to ask some, as it is related to AI and pharmacovigilance.
Sure.
I think Dr. Samser sir wants to ask some question.
Yeah.
Dr. Samser sir.
So, namaskar, sir.
Thank you.
My voice is audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir,
yes.
Okay. So basically, sir, I was not totally able to networking.
So some disturbance in the line.
My voice is audible.
No, now we can. Yeah.
I think there is some disturbance in the voice.
Actually, here is a network issue, sir.
Sure. Maybe we can connect one-on-one.
Okay, sir. Can we proceed further, Samser sir? Actually, you are unable to, or your voice is not visible. So, in conclusion, uh, I was to conclude the lecture. Mr. Jay has taken a nice lecture on embrace the future K trends impacting the health science industry. Sir has covered the importance of data in critical in enables of digital transformation and covers how can we translate science to therapy body on a chip and from preclinical to clinical study, how do we reduce reliance on animal testing and some examples of clinical development, decentralized and digital clinical trials, newly adopted approaches during the COVID in clinical trials using AI, digital patient recruitment, AI in safety case management and safety signal management, optimizing the PV and discuss 4 stages and intake processing AI workflow. And an example of image processing, natural language processing, predictive signal detection. And one given one example of research paper published in 2020 in e-biomedicine by Lancet, and last has discussed the path of pharmacovigilance. Sir, it was a nice and informative lecture on AI, which links to the healthcare. Sir, we thankful to you for your valuable time. You spared at the ISFCP platform and provided vast knowledge regarding the AI and pharmacovigilance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for this wonderful opportunity. I think hopefully you will find this useful and feel free to reach out. I'll share my email ID as well. I will contact number. If anyone wants to understand this more or deeper, we can definitely collaborate and take this forward. Yeah. Thank you so much for this wonderful
Thank you, sir.
opportunity.
Have a nice day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.